All righty, welcome everybody to the third episode of Doug's Dugout. And tonight, just like every weekend, except for this weekend, we just couldn't get our schedules together. We've got Doug Blunt. He is bringing us Doug's Dugout. He's going to bring us the latest on the MLB, as well as the scores and the stats. Doug, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back. Um, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
Another exciting season of baseball.
Well, it's my first time without a green screen, as you can see. I'm trying to get a little bit of a normal background set up there, so it's not as nice as your Mac cave there, but I'm getting there.
Took me a long time to get the Mac cave looking good. I'm never done with it. It all depends what my purse is.
Yeah.
I can only spend so much money.
Well, you know what?
Now since I've discovered the world of now since I've discovered the world of electric bikes, I spend more money on the electric bike than anything else.
Well, you kind of left me thinking the other day, thinking that I couldn't build Rome in one day, so I just was taking a little bit here and a little bit there. And I'm kind of going to get your ideas of when you find something that's unusual, antique, like that typewriter you got a few months back. I'm going to snatch it when I can to put it as somewhere in my backdrop back there. I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm thinking of getting I'd like to get a little SpaceX rocket and put it on the side here,
There you
but
go. There you go.
I tried getting a tile, by the way, one of those tiles, those heat shield tiles, but they're all broken. So I think I'm gonna have to make my own. You know. So
You know
anyway,
what? When I
uh,
my old boss out at Northrop, he worked on the space shuttle, and he was in charge of putting all those tiles on the original. And you remember how much trouble those tiles were
yeah,
on Challenger and Discovery and Atlantis and all that. And he always told me a lot of stories about that,
yeah.
about the heat.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's
now
it's
it's not
amazing.
too bad now.
It's amazing. You know, at least with the shuttle, you could kind of at least, work at ground level to put those tiles. But, when you're dealing with a vertical rocket, you've got you got guys
Yeah.
up there 300 feet in the air, I just don't know how they do it. So,
Yeah, back in the old McDonnell Douglas days, I worked with the guy that was on the Mercury program. And you see those old news videos, where Alan Shepard's getting into a capsule, and
uh-huh.
there's a guy with a McDonnell Douglas has got a white smock on with it says McDonnell Douglas on.
Right.
You probably seen those, yeah. Yeah, he was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he said one time, there was a monkey went up, right?
Yeah.
And they finally got the monkey, and I forget the monkey's name. They finally got him in the space capsule. So they shot him up, and he didn't want to go in that space capsule, but they got him in there somehow. And they put all the sensors and all that stuff on him, and then he was on the recovery crew when they got him back down. And boy, he didn't want in that monkey. He didn't want nothing about that space capsule. He wanted out of that space capsule. Boy,
I can
big time.
imagine. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they didn't volunteer Bonzo. Remember Bonzo, the one that used to show up with Ronald Reagan back in the old days?
Yeah, Bonzo. Yeah, I forget what this guy. But this chimp, he lived a long time. He
Yeah.
lived in the National Zoo for like 50 years, 45 years.
Wow.
You know, yeah, he lived a long
Of
time.
course, bringing him down to our zoo down here, he may not survive very long.
No, no,
They're
not down
about
here.
they're about to lose accreditation, by the way. So who knows what's gonna happen. But anyway,
Really.
Doug, we're kind of swaying off the topic here a little bit, but let's talk about baseball.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
going
sure.
on the MLB?
Well, I mean, there's some, Tampa Bay is still winning games and they're still playing good ball.
Yeah.
Big surprises in the National League Central Division where my Cardinals are at. everybody thought the Cardinals would be either in second place or first place this time of year. But Lord behold, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati is battling Milwaukee,
Wow.
and my Cardinals is in last place and probably probably the worst team in baseball. It's
Wow.
just unbelievable what happened to them this year. But
I'm Do you think it was because they lost, what was his name, Albert and the other player, or do you think
Yachty.
yeah, or do you think it was
Well,
something?
I have a theory. I have a theory behind that is that Yachty wasn't the same ball player he had been before. But his leadership in the clubhouse and stuff was spectacular. And the same thing with Albert. And Marmol, he's only 35, 36 years old. And, they changed a lot of coaches in the off season
Mm-hmm.
that was there before under Shelt. And the pitching coach, especially, he went down to Texas. And, that guy, I forget what his name is, but his brother's in the Hall of Fame for Atlanta. And he's a really good pitching coach. He'd come out, they'd be, basically be load or something. He'd walk out there and he'd put his arm around the pitcher, and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. How are you going to pitch him and all that kind of stuff. But he's all gone. And then Albert, of course, retired. Yachty retired. And, and then, Marmo basically, there Skip Schumacher, who's a manager of Miami. Okay, he's gone. So yeah, I think they got some problem. I think Marmel's a problem. I think the manager, it's always the old story is it's always easier to fire the manager is the team.
Right.
And I think he Marmel's got to go because this pitching staff is just terrible. I mean, I'm a favorite of Wainwright, but he's 42 years old. He pitched yesterday. He pitched okay. Michaelis has pitched okay, but Matt's their big bonus baby. They signed a couple years ago. He's not even he got relegated to the bullpen. That's how
Wow.
be it. Now Livator is pitching tonight, and they just brought him up from Memphis not too long ago. He's doing okay, but and Flattery has pitched better, but it's just like one guy said, Chip Carey, the Cardinal announcer, say, "Hey, we got a all-star second baseman playing center field, and we just brought a kid up from Memphis that's only played left field for a half a season, and then we've got um, a utility player playing right field,
Yeah.
and so our outfield was in pretty bad shape, but Carlson's back, and that's good. Now we can get Newtbar back. That'd be even better."
Yeah.
But I'm partial to Harrison Bader. I mean, he solidified that center field for a few years out there. And, they traded him away last year for Montgomery, and they needed pitching, but they also needed somebody like Bader out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Arenado, he's come out of his slump. DeYoung, I don't know why he's playing shortstop because he's hitting like 197 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And they just need. Well, he's got that big contract. That's the reason why he's making 11 million a year.
Wow.
Second baseman, Donovan's okay. Goldschmidt, steady Goldschmidt. He plays every day. He's been kind of slumping, but that's okay. Everybody expects that. And Contreras, the big guy we signed to replace Yachty, he started out pretty good, but then now he's in a slump. And I just checked his average a while ago. He's only hitting 203, so he's barely hitting the Mendoza line.
Wow.
So we got our plum, but I think it's a coach. I think
Yeah.
it's a manager needs to go.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's zoom into some of the standings here. We'll go ahead and flip screens back to your scoreboard, your scorecard here. And the American League East, once again, as you mentioned, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, 48 wins and 20 losses. They seem to be on top of their division right now.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, it's a team that seems to have everything going for it. The organization wise, too, is that, they have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball, if not the lowest. And they've got some good pitching. and they may even get it. There's I saw a feature on them today. Is it they're it's a profitable organization, and there's rumors of them moving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because just can't, they just won't draw, and they can't get public funding for a new stadium down there. So
How big is that
that's one of
market?
the
How big is that media market down there in Tampa? It's not that big, I wouldn't think.
no, but I mean, it's the trouble is there's so many other attractions down there. You got Disneyland down there and Busch Gardens and just all kinds of stuff that people are doing other things.
Yeah. And
Okay, and I
where would they be considering moving to?
well, nobody seems to know. That seems to be one of the world's mysteries. That Oakland, we can talk about Oakland later, but before and Major League Baseball, they want to expand to 32 teams, but before they do that, they have to they got to figure out what they're going to do about Tampa Bay and Oakland.
Hmm.
Oakland, the A's, they're reportedly want to go to Vegas. They don't, the people of Vegas, they don't want to they don't want to pay the money out for a public funded stadium,
Right.
and so it's the same thing with Tampa Bay. So whatever they can get a stadium at, that's where they'll play.
I
Either
mean,
one
I
of
know
them.
that San
I would
Antonio's
say,
been chasing for some kind of team other than a
yeah, San
basketball team.
Antonio doesn't really. They have a minor league team called the Missions, and they play at some college field there. I haven't seen them, but that's what I've heard. And you got the Alamo Dome, which is empty most of the time,
Right.
and you can play baseball in there.
Yeah.
Not the best venue in the world, but you can play baseball in there.
What about
Maybe for a few
Mexico?
years.
Any idea that a Mexican city
There's
would let?
rumors. There's rumors of Mexico City.
Wow.
Okay, there's rumors of Mexico City. There's rumors of going back to Montreal. And then there's another rumor about going to North Carolina.
Hmm.
Charlottesville. Of course, so the Braves will probably kill that idea
Right.
because it's so it's close to Atlanta. Um, I'd like to see him come to San Antonio myself, but they're going to be in competition with the Astros and the Rangers.
Right.
So the Rangers are playing good ball. I mean
I
they
know.
built a new stadium for him, and I saw them last week when the Cardinals were in Texas. They beat up on the Cardinals pretty darn bad. They got a good young team,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they finally got a stadium, and they're in Cisco that they can play. God, the other one was so hot. I think they called it the furnace or something like that. And it wasn't a bad stadium because I've had lunch there before. I used to go see a vendor for my old company up there, and he used to take us over to that field, and we used to sit up there in the right field section and have lunch. And it's not a bad ballpark, but it's just so hot
Yeah.
in there. That's
Yeah.
what they say. Now since they've got a dome stadium, they can, it's very comfortable playing in there.
Right.
So, but it costs the taxpayers of Texas a lot of money. So,
Right.
of
Yeah.
that area,
Yeah.
but San Antonio would be okay. Like I said, the Alamo Dome would be hot. I mean, it would, San Antonio would be hot, but they would have to almost play an indoor stadium like maybe the Alamo Dome. But that's it's not, like I said, it's not the best place to play.
Right.
It's
Right.
but that's what I kind of look.
Yeah.
But they're going to expand, but they just don't know what to do with Oakland and Tampa Bay.
Right.
Tampa Bay's got a good ball club, got a good organization. I saw a feature on it today. It's worth about $2 billion now,
Wow.
and yeah, and but the A's, you know, it's probably the Memphis Cardinals probably are worth more than what the Oakland A's are because they just don't have any money.
Wow.
And that area doesn't they don't draw that well
Right.
in that area.
Well, second place in the American League East is Baltimore. They've got
Hanging in there,
41
playing
wins.
playing well over 500 ball.
Yeah,
Good young team.
yeah. And the
Huh?
Yankees are in third place.
Yeah, they've had some trouble with injuries. The Yankees will probably start getting hot probably the last 2 months of the season, probably the 1st of August, right after the All Star break.
Right.
And they come into St. Louis here at the end of June, I think. That'll be a big series.
And then you've got Toronto and Boston at the bottom of that league. Right.
Yeah, Toronto's been very disappointing this year. Everybody thought Toronto would do really good, and Boston's going through a rebuilding deal. They lost all their good ball players, especially their shortstop, and you know
Well,
Minnesota.
yeah, the American League Central, Minnesota Twins.
Yeah,
They're
just playing 500 ball, but that's good enough in that division.
right. And then you've got the Cleveland Guardians.
Cleveland Guardians. Yes.
Didn't they
Blow.
recently
Yeah,
play Houston? Didn't they recently play Houston or
yeah,
Rangers?
they did.
And they
Yeah,
beat the
yeah.
crap out of them, didn't they?
I think so. Major League Baseball, they're more on the NBA model now. Is that what they're doing? Is that every team plays each other at least one series,
Mm-hmm.
so you get to see Cleveland against St. Louis, or and it gives the fans a chance to see. That was one of the big deals they did in the off season, that we need to arrange this because, when I was a kid, I just saw National League teams.
Right.
American League was that league over there. We didn't know anything about American League. But now, you know, but and you didn't see the stars. I mean, I didn't see Al Kaline, even though I had a Al Kaline baseball glove, or Norm Cash, or Mickey Mantle, or Roger Maris till he came to the Cardinals. None of those guys, because we was all National League,
Right.
and it was a different type of baseball. Now the umpires are basically the same. It's the same group of umpires that go from National League to American League. So, and then they play each, and then there's interplay interplay league games all the time. So,
Right.
you know, it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal.
Yeah. And then you've got the Chicago White Sox. They're in third place in that division.
Yeah, not having a good season. White Sox.
Now,
Everybody kind of thought the White Sox would probably be a wild card team. I don't know. They're going to have a hard time making it. It looks like.
and Detroit and Kansas City are down at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. Um, Detroit. You know, really no stars at all. Okay. Kansas City, I think Kansas City in about a year or two, maybe 2 years, will have something going on unless they trade the players away,
Right.
because they got quite a few young ball players that are doing pretty good. Cardinals played them there about a week ago or so, and Kansas City beat our butts off. I mean, they beat us,
Yeah.
and we usually beat up on Kansas City, but they're coming around.
Right. And the AL West, no surprise there. You've got Texas with 41 wins and 23 losses. They seem to be hot.
Yeah, yeah. You want to change your screen?
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Texas, good team. They spent a lot of money. Unfortunately, their big bonus guy, the big dollar guy, Jacob DeGrom, he's out for, I think, Tommy John surgery. He won't be able to pitch for him for 2 years. But they got a lot of arms. They got, there was a Cardinal. This kid, there was a kid that came up through the Cardinal minor system, and the Cardinals gave up on him.
Mm.
And so what they called DAF, or designated for assignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
DFA, designated for assignment. And basically, what they do is they give you unconditional release so you can make a deal somewhere else. Well,
Wow.
that's what this kid did, and he's lighting the thing up.
Wow.
He's one of their big guns.
Wow.
Yeah,
And then Houston's in second place. They're still hanging on there.
two Texas teams are doing good.
Yeah.
He's
And
going to be in there
yeah.
as a wild card team. They'll start making their move after the All Star break.
Yeah.
They've had some injury problems.
Then you've got the LA Angels there in third.
Yeah, Mike Trout, what can probably considered by many the best player in baseball. He's having another Mike Trout year. He hasn't been hurt this year that I know of. And so, he's going to get his 100 RBIs and his 40 homers.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with, you know, um, Otani. I think he's pitching pretty good and he's hitting too. So he'll be in there too. So their big deal is that a few years ago, they went out and got a player named Rodon, and he had a monster year for the Nationals when they won the World Series. Well, Rendon's been hurt ever since. And recently, he's barely hitting the Mendoza line. I don't think he's even doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And he like come unglued at the team. Rendon did. So Phil Nevin had to set him down. I think had they set him, the reason why they set him down because of load management.
Yeah.
In other words, just shut up and sit down, and because you're not going to play. And then I guess he got hurt, and now he's on the DL again. So they're going to, but they're giving him a monster salary
Yeah.
because he had such a monster year about 3 years ago. He hasn't done anything since then. So if he could ever get started, he'd help the Angels out quite a bit. But the Angels got some problems because Mike Trout, he's and deservedly so. He's making a lot of money, and Otani's contract's up
Yeah.
this year. So, are they going to give him? Are they going to trade him at the trading deadline and see what they can get for him? Because they don't think they can sign him. I don't know. It's one of the world's mysteries.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. And then you've got Seattle and Oakland, obviously at the bottom there. Oakland's got a
Yeah.
pretty bad
Well, look at the
record.
difference in the records. Yeah, Seattle's a couple games below 500,
Mm-hmm.
and they should get a little bit better. Okay. Now you look at Oakland, 17 games. They've only won 17 games this season.
That's really bad. That's really bad.
That's really bad. I think they're on track to lose 115 games this year or something.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go over
But
to
they
the
don't have any. They don't have any people. They don't have any
yeah.
players.
Yeah. Well, let's go over
I
to the
think
National League
Atlanta.
East.
Yeah. Atlanta. What can we say about Atlanta? I mean, we just they just keep on rolling. You good organization, good young team, good coaching,
Yeah.
all the way around. Miami, that's Skip Schumacher. He played for the Cardinals.
Right.
He was a bench coach for the Cardinals, and he was a center fielder and second baseman for the Cardinals. Um, he's got him playing well,
Yeah.
37-29.
Yeah. And then you've got
Okay.
Philly. Philly's at third place there.
Valley's a big disappointment this year because they went out and signed that the shortstop from the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And I haven't checked him lately, but he wasn't doing very well.
Wow.
He was kind of having an off year, but he'll be back. He's a
And
good
then
ball
you've got
player.
the Mets and the Nationals.
Bryce Harper came back. I don't think Bryce Harper's lighting the place on fire yet, but he
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
need pitching.
Give me a second. I'm going to turn on one
Mets.
of my studio lights here because I'm seeing that it's getting darker and darker and I'm going to disappear. Hold on one second. That's all I need. Put on my expensive earphones.
There you go.
All right.
The Mets, I mean, they're out. The Mets, that being the media mecca of the world. I mean, they're all over the Mets. The sportscasters and experts and stuff. Mets have a lot of talent, and I think their best player he went out on the injury reserve.
Wow.
Um, yeah, their big home run hitter.
Wow.
He's on injury. He went out on the DL, and I think he's went out with a hand injury, so he's going to be gone for quite some time.
Wow.
So they're very disappointed. Everybody's disappointed with the Mets this year.
And then you've got the Nationals there at the bottom.
Yeah, I think we talked about the Nationals before. It's like their their owner was an old man. He finally died like last year or so,
Yeah.
and the family's taking the team over, and they don't want the team anymore, and they don't want to put any money into it. So they're doing downhill.
And then you've got the National League
Milwaukee,
Central,
yeah,
Pittsburgh.
Milwaukee. I see Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's in first place. Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Who would think? But um, Cardinals played them not too long ago too, and matter of fact, I think they start again tomorrow after they're done with San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And Pittsburgh's got a good team. I mean,
Yeah.
they got a good young team. They finally got smart. They before these kids got free agency, they signed them to long-term contracts, similar to what Atlanta's done,
Mm-hmm.
so they can compete. So they've got, the third baseman, they got him signed to a long-term contract. Um, Lawrence McCutcheon, a veteran on the team, he's like been reborn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's having a good year. There's just a lot of good young ball players. Pittsburgh's had a problem with defense for a long time. I remember last year, the year before, the Cardinals played them, and their defense was just terrible. They was throwing the wrong bases, and they were dropping fly balls, just everything. But looks like they've concentrated on the defense, and so now they're playing for some pretty good ball. So I think Pittsburgh is for real.
Yeah. And then you've got Milwaukee in second place there.
Yeah, Milwaukee's Milwaukee. They're barely, neither Pittsburgh or Milwaukee is really lighting the league on fire, but Milwaukee's barely playing 500 ball, but they're hanging in there. They got good pitching.
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough offense.
Yeah. And then you've got Cincinnati in third place.
Cincinnati, I saw them for 3 games over the weekend. They got this kid. His name is Ellie Destrella or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And they just brought him up from the minors. And that kid is like, he plays the game like he's a video player. It's like, he's a 5 tool ball player. He can run. He runs like the wind, and he can hit. And they think they got something special with him.
Yeah.
And they've got a couple other good young ball players too. So there again, Cincinnati's been down for such a long time, and they finally got some kids up there that's getting some experience. They gave they beat the Cardinals 2 out of 3 over the weekend. So I think they might be for real. They got some decent pitching.
Right.
At least that's what we saw. You know,
And then you've got Chicago in
Cubs.
fourth. You got
Yeah, I think
the
Cubs.
Cubs.
I don't think the Cubs are going to do anything this year.
Yeah.
They're but they're going to draw Wrigley Field. Everybody likes going to Wrigley Field, but
Yeah.
you know,
And then of course
but
you
I
got your
think they're going to be the bottom of the
Redbirds.
basement.
You got your
Oh,
Redbirds at the bottom of the barrel there.
ah, my boy, my Redbirds on the bottom of the barrel. I don't know what Like we talked earlier, the manager's got to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know who they got to. I don't know who they're going to get. I don't know if they're going to hire maybe somebody like Matt Holliday in Texas, a Cardinal great. He was supposed to be the bench coach this year, but he changed. They announced him as a bench coach, and then he decided he didn't want to do it. And then, I personally would like to see Shelt to come back. Shelt took care of the Cardinals a couple years ago, and they just fired him after he won the division. They just freaking fired him.
Wow.
Okay, they said it was philosophical differences. Okay, and he's a coach for San Diego now, but Sheldon's an old time Cardinal, and old time organization. He was in the organization for 18 years.
Wow.
There's a Cardinal, yeah. There's a Cardinal legend named George Kessel, and George Kessel. They talk about the Cardinal way. Well, George Kessel was the one that coached all these ball players through the organization, going back to the days of Ted Simmons and those guys back then. And he finally died. But as a kid, okay, Shelt, I believe his father pretty young, and he was a young coach coming up through the Cardinal system, and he lived with Kessel and his wife for a number of years. So naturally, they talked baseball 24 hours a day. Okay, and I think Schultz did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But Mosaic, they decided to get rid of him. Last year, when they had Marmo. So I
Well,
just hope they don't come back. Matheny, there's a ball player used to be manager for Cardinals and Kansas City named Mike Matheny. Well, he played for the Cardinals around the 2000 or 2004. Okay, pretty decent catcher, not the pretty good defensive catcher. Well, when what's his name left, I'm trying to think his name. Oh, when the Tony La Russa had been there for a long time, he finally retired. Well, Matheny had never coached before, just like Marmo had. Okay, and they hired him, and I think we won the World Series that year, or won the pennant anyway. And but he had Tony's team. He didn't have his own team. And by the time 2 or 3 years into his tenure, well, the Cardinals were not motivated. But Shelt, he changed the Cardinals when he came in. They fired
mm,
Matheny. They were having a year like this year, and they finally got smart and fired Matheny, and they brought Shelt in, and we made the playoffs that year.
yeah.
Shelt's a good manager, but
Yeah.
they just, Shelt, old school, there's so much stuff in baseball about statistics,
Mm-hmm.
and, sabermetrics and stuff. And Shelt says, hey, listen, that's all good. I mean, the sabermetrics is okay, but a manager can't make all their decisions just on, sabermetrics. There's got to be some, your gut feeling what's happening.
Right.
And the
Right.
same thing with the players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the National League West. You've got the Arizona Diamondbacks, I believe. They're 40 to 25.
Another surprise team like Tampa Bay is. Um, you could see last year that Arizona was going to be a better team
Mm-hmm.
this year.
Yeah.
They've got one of the premier pitchers in baseball now, a couple of them. A pretty good team.
Yeah.
Pretty good team. I wish they would draw better down there. And, but the Phoenix just doesn't, not a really a big baseball town like St. Louis or something like that.
Yeah.
But, they have a dome stadium in there. The dome stadium is okay.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll
And
do better.
and then you've got
But I think,
LA
oh,
right
they're for
behind
real.
them. Then you've got LA right behind them.
Yeah, the Dodgers, they're going to be in it. They got too much talent. Their
Mm-hmm.
organization's too good. They had a lot of controversy in the last week with this. They had a gay pride game night, and there was an organization. Uh, uh, Basically, the organization does, it makes fun of the Catholic Church.
Uh,
Okay, and mounted them on the field. It just caused a big fuss. So
wow.
there's a lot of stuff going on in Los Angeles now, not related to baseball.
Wow.
And
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 and you
you
thought
know,
that
Los
would just
Angeles.
be in San Francisco.
What's that?
You think that only happened in San Francisco.
No, yeah, not in San Francisco, but in LA. LA is predominantly. There's a lot of Hispanics that go to the baseball games.
Right.
They're predominant, of course, so they're predominantly Catholic.
Right.
Okay. So the Catholic Church came out against this organization. this gay deal that they for example put Jesus Christ on a they have their nuns dressed up and they use the cross for as a stripper pole,
Oh my
stuff like that,
gosh. Oh wow.
just stuff, just crazy stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so in the Catholic Church out there, pretty, they against them publicly. And so there's a lot of stuff related to baseball going on out there.
Yeah. Well, you've got San Francisco obviously in third place. Uh,
Yeah, I'm watching the Cardinals and the Frisco and San Francisco playing right now in St. Louis. We're
yeah.
in the eighth inning. The game is tied 3-3. Um, One of the best pitchers in baseball started the game for the Giants. He pitched pretty good, and then um, and our young kid Lebator, they just brought him up from Memphis.
Right.
He pitched pretty good, so looks like a pretty good game going on.
Yeah.
So
And
they play San Francisco the next two more games, and they're in for the wild card, I think.
yeah. And then you've got San Diego and Colorado in last place in that league.
Yeah, San Diego, big time disappointment on that. They literally spent $1 billion in the off season for
Right.
ball players,
Right.
and everybody picked them to just run it away, but not really,
Wow.
not really.
Wow.
They
Well,
may
that
be sellers. Okay, in baseball, when the trading deadline comes, there's sellers, and there's buyers.
right.
So the question is, are you a seller or are you a buyer at the
Yeah.
trading thing? And they've got San Diego's got some players that are going to be free agents in the off season, and so if they're still struggling now, they will definitely be a seller
Yeah.
because before they thought they were going to be a buyer,
Yeah.
but they've got all those contracts they won't be able to sign, so they'll have to get something for them.
Right. Right. All righty, Doug. Well, that pretty much wraps up, the week or somewhat the week. We'll probably have something different to talk about, next week. But any final thoughts?
Yeah,
Any
it'd be interesting.
stories?
Yeah, I just want to add that the Cardinals are going to be going to London
Yeah.
to play the Cubs for a couple games over there, like next week.
Okay.
So that should be interesting. MLB they want to, Great Britain had a team in the baseball classic, you know,
Yeah.
and so they want to promote baseball around the world. So they were supposed to go last year, but of course COVID got involved in that, and
Right.
so this year they're going over there and they're going to be playing in London. So I don't know where they're going to be playing at. I don't know how the field is, but they'll have something set up for them over there.
So we may
So that
get to
should be
see
interesting.
Charlie and Camilla at the baseball game.
I guess he's back on his horse again. I guess. Did you hear that?
No, 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 no.
Yeah, I guess he's gonna go. I guess because of Queen Elizabeth, God, she was so old,
Yeah.
and I mean, one time she was a expert equestrian, but I mean,
I
she just
heard
got so
that.
old, and so some parade over there that they get in. Well, they put that on hold for the last 30 years because of Queen Elizabeth being so old. But now Charlie's going to get back on the horse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 74 years old.
74 years old. That's right.
But hey, that's nothing unusual. Did we just
Nope.
pause?
Nope.
Yeah, he's not much older than I am. And hey, William Shatner's what, 91?
90. 90.
And he's still
Yeah.
90,
Something like that.
still
He
on
went
a
to
horse.
space. Literally went to space.
He literally went to space.
Yep.
He just keeps on rolling on.
That's
William
right.
Shatner
And
does.
and he doesn't even look 90. That's even so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, at least Clint Eastwood at 93. I mean, Clint's not looking so good.
Right.
He's real skinny, But as he says, I have to keep the old man out. You know, that's just So I guess he's getting ready to make another movie. He's going to direct another movie.
Wow. Wow.
So but
So any
well, no,
historical stories for us this time around, or
no, not really. That's kind of fresh out of them right now. I hadn't been thinking about it
that's all
that
right.
much.
That's all right.
Um,
I know you've got a game that
but
you're
I
watching right now, so that's important.
Yeah, we're actually in this one,
Yeah.
and we have a chance to. We still would like to go up to St. Louis and see a ball game this year, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to make it. We thought about flying, then we talked about the car, but then we finally got God blessed us with little league pitchers,
Right.
so she made a ton of money on that,
Yeah.
and we was able to get some stuff done on the car. And then we thought about taking my electric bike up there and, riding around and going back to my hometown in Cronville
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Um,
Well, if you fly,
but
you can't take your e-bike with you, but if you drive, you can.
can't take my e-bike.
You
It's
know.
a long drive. It's about 18 hours up there. But
Yeah, unless you
once,
want to break it down into like 2 days up, and 2 days back.
yeah, by the time you figure what the gas is and the amount of time you got to spend in the hotel, $125 a night or whatever,
Yeah.
you could almost fly,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know, but she's been busy doing the little league pictures. She had over 250 kids that she took,
Wow. That's a lot of
and
kids.
um, you know, and that was really something. Seeing those little kids coming in there, it really
Yeah.
was. I was the man. I was the guy taking the money, with the old cigar box there, you know, and giving them a number and giving them the chalkboard and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and selling the packages.
Yeah.
But all these little kids, coming in there, and I was happy to see that kids were still playing baseball.
Yeah. That is a good thing. That is a
You
good
know,
thing, considering that, they're tied to
oh,
those
they had young
screens.
girls in there, and
You know. So,
yeah, and not only that, Raymondville being such a small community, okay,
right. Right.
small, and about the only thing Raymondville's got going for it is a prison, right? There's not a whole lot of industry and the jobs
Right.
around there aren't so great. But mom and dad, they bring the kids in there and they get their picture taken in little league. And
Yeah.
I guess the little league up there is pretty popular. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. Definitely.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
righty. All righty, Doug. Well, that wraps it up for tonight.
You got
We've actually,
you got another you got a space launch tonight or
I did two today, and I'm pooped. So hopefully they'll settle down for the weekend, but you never know. So we'll
well
see.
you need to start saving your $3,500 for the Apple
Oh
nerd
yeah,
camera.
I
Nerd
know.
nerd
I
gear,
know
right?
the Provision camera. You know, I know they're
Vision
taking a lot
Vision
of
Pro?
heat. They're
Yeah,
taking a
Vision
lot of
Pro.
heat for the price. I guess people thought it was going to be cheaper for some reason, but I don't know why they would think that it was going to be cheaper. I don't know.
Everybody knew. A lot of people thought it was going to be 1999, but
Well,
Apple blew that one out of the water. Okay.
right. And then of course, I think somebody on TV, one of the news anchors, corrected Tim Apple there when he said 39.95. They literally corrected him on the interview. You meant 3,995, not 39.95. You know.
Tim Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Tim Apple.
all
Yeah.
righty, Doug. Well, that wraps up episode 3. As always, it's a pleasure to spend some time with you going through the MLB and the stats and watching your Redbirds, and hopefully they'll improve.
Don't say that too loud.
All right.
We got to get better. We got to get
Hey,
better. We can't get any worse than what we're
no,
doing.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. All righty. Well, that's it, folks, for this episode of Doug's Dugout. We will be back next week with Doug to go over the latest stats with regards to the MLB. And once again, stay tuned to Brownsville Tech Live. We should be covering future SpaceX episodes. I know we've got a couple of tech shows coming up and a few specials. So uh, tune in to those ads as they pop up. And we appreciate everybody taking the time to watch us tonight. Doug, have a good evening watching the remainder of the game. Hopefully, you've got a win tonight, and we'll see you all next
Oh,
week.
we just fell a run behind. We're in the bottom of the eighth, and the Giants are winning 4-3
Oh,
now.
no, not good. Oh, well. All
Not
right,
good.
Doug, we'll see you next week.
Okay, take care. Bye
All
bye.
righty, bye bye.
Okay, Danny boy.
All right, we'll see you later.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye bye.